All right, the first thing that I learned is that either the developers or the designers have a sense of humor and or there's hidden meaning in the shapes of these territories in these maps. That's probably not true. They're probably randomly generated, but let's look at this map for a second. And look at this territory just south of my empire. What does it look like? Does it not look like Gollum sitting on a toilet to you? It does to me. Maybe that's just like being able to see shapes in the clouds, like they're not there, but your mind tells you. This is Gollum sitting on a toilet. And the developers did that on purpose. That's something I learned. Okay, the second thing that I've learned is that animals cannot steal food curiosities from you. As you can see in this clip, there is an animal on a food curiosity. I advance the turn, and the animal moves off, and the food curiosity is still there. So, you thought that they could, they can't, and this proves it. So another thing on my top 10 list of things that I've learned in playing Humankind for over 60 hours is that you no longer receive food as spoils from your battles with animals after the Neolithic era and when you're not a nomadic tribe. So, military unit, there is one exception. A military unit that attacks, like a scout or a warrior or something like that, that attacks a deer, only receives gold for it once you've moved into the next era. The exception is the Mongols, that they have a certain type of unit, the Mongol Horde, I believe it's called, that they do actually win food, and they can spawn additional units through winning battles. It's the only one of that type that can do it after the nomadic tribe in the Neolithic era. So that's another thing that I learned. So the next thing that I learned is that in gameplay speeds, let's get into play new game. The pace, endless, is in fact not endless. If you can see, it only says that you can take 600 turns maximum. So I feel like that's a little bit of false advertising. In keeping with the gameplay pace things that I learned, normal speed, which is what the game defaults to, only allows you to play 300 turns. Now that's a little bit different than other games that I'm used to, like Civ 6, because at 300 turns, the game pretty much ends. I've never made it even into the 19th century playing on normal speed, which is just seems really weird to me. All right, the next thing that I learned in 60 plus hours of gameplay in this game is the difference between a hard border and a soft border. Now, visually, once you zoom all the way out, you can visually see the difference. The shaded area that's dark shaded is a hard bordered area, and the shaded area that is with the thatched lines is soft. And both countries, my country is black, the Mycenaeans are green. You can see both of us have hard bordered and soft border. What that means is that hard bordered areas are territories that are occupied by an actual city. So Hattusa is a city, and Spectrum is just an outpost. So once you attach an outpost to a city, then that can also make the territory hard bordered. So to make this territory turn dark shaded and have a hard border, we'll talk about in just a second what the implications of that are. We could either attach this outpost to my Hattusa city at the cost of 80 influence, which I don't have enough to do. Or we can convert it into a city. I have one more city left under my cap before I start getting penalized for too many cities, and I'd pay for that in influence per turn. So that's pretty much it. Hard border versus soft border. Cities or attached outposts to a city create a hard border. Soft borders are unattached outposts. And the difference here is that when you do not have...
All those of honest intent may have my ear.
Let's look at the treaties that we have. When you have a closed border policy, which is the default for all of your initial relationships, in closed borders, those countries can't cross a hard border, but they can cross a soft border. So if they had an army or a scout, they would be able to roam around inside this thatched line shaded area, but they would not, without declaring war, be able to roam around inside my country with the hard border. I think there is an exception. One of the empires, I think it's the Assyrians. Correct me if I'm wrong. Comment down below. They can cross borders no matter what. So if you want to be able to do that, then you can pick that empire and you can ignore borders, basically. Now, you can still get in trouble for trespassing, I think. But these hard borders versus soft borders doesn't matter for, I believe it's the Assyrians. So there we go. That's another thing that I learned. Okay, so the next thing that I learned that I want to share with you all is the shape of the planet that we live on in Humankind. It is spherical west to east, right? You can go all the way around the world west to east. However, it is not spherical north to south, and there don't appear to be poles on the North Pole and the South Pole to prevent you from going that way. As far as there's not like ice caps, you don't see them. Maybe that's implied, but let me show you how I think I've determined this. So let me find my ships down here. I'm going to take these two ships and I'm going to go south with them. That's going to take a couple turns. But do you see this dotted line here? Now that represents a territory, and this territory in the ocean is huge. But it will not let me pass through here and come out on the top of the planet. Up here. Path is outside of the game, right? So I can go down to here. Advance. But I've still got 5 movement points left. I can't go down here. And there's no ice cap, there's no continent, there's no land, there's nothing blocking me. It's just not a spheroid north to south, but it is a spheroid east to west. So that's something I learned, and I think that that's strange. So the next thing that I learned is regarding the size of the worlds in Humankind. Now, at first, I thought that the worlds felt smaller than Civ 6. I played Civ 6 a lot. I think it's probably pretty normal that a lot of us played Civ 6 before we played Humankind. The huge map felt smaller to me than the huge map in Civ 6. After a little bit of research, though, it appears that the huge map is actually larger in Humankind than in Civ 6. As you can see here, when you hover over huge on the setup screen, it says that it's 150 by 88 hexagons in size. However, comparing the Civ 6 huge map specs, as you can see here, the huge map in Civ 6 is only 106 by 66. So the huge map in Humankind is actually quite a bit larger than the huge map in Civ 6. on to the next thing that I learned in 60 plus hours of playing Humankind, which I wear as a badge of honor, by the way, if you can't tell. Victory conditions. At first I thought that how the game ends is not configurable by the player. That you could change the length as far as how many turns the game took, but you know, a science victory versus a domination victory versus the inhabitable, non-inhabitable planet. I didn't realize that those were configurable victory conditions until I dug into the settings a little bit more. So to change the victory conditions, you actually go to the pace setting, and the end conditions are what allows you to toggle how the game can end. Now, I liked Civ 6 a little bit more where it wasn't a mutually exclusive, and there were some more options, but this is a start, I guess. So for Humankind, you can choose either the default, which I believe is the turn-based, the number of turns that it takes. Last human standing, meaning the last player alive, the last empire alive. Time limit, which again I think is default, or space race, which is the launching of the Mars lander, similar to Civ 6. So there is a little bit of configuration. I expect that they will probably add some more to this as the game matures, but just wanted to point that out, that in the pace section, this is how you can choose the different ways that you can actually win or lose the end of the game. And the last thing that I learned in playing Humankind for a full-time job, not really, but you know what I mean. The last thing that I learned is that the maximum number of competitors that you can have in any given game, including yourself, is 10. You can't go above 10. If you try and type in a number, it'll let you, but it won't actually increase the numbers, and if you use the toggles, it'll go back down to 9. So 10, including your own empire, are the most competitors that you can have in a game currently. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. It's free and it supports my channel.